What's up YouTube, Webberz05 here coming out today with Q&A number 43. So once again today my good questions are brought to by my good friend DocRetition84, who says, these new questions are about some of my favourite dragons. Okay, so moving into the dragon styled questions now. Interesting. So let's kick it off. Question 1, thoughts on Black Rose Dragon? Can't deny I do love a bit of Black Rose Dragon from back in the day. Like just a very nice level 7 synchro board wipe. Or if you were actually smart when you were playing it, you're not going to board wipe with your Black Rose, you're just going to banish the Dandelion that you've got in your graveyard to put something in attack mode and drop its points and then just smack over it for big damage. But yeah, can't deny, I've had some fun times with Black Rose, particularly when I was playing the video games. Like, Black Rose was just that nice easy option of just board wiping your opponent, which was fun. But yeah, learning that from Edison rulings and people just being like, no, I think I saw my friend Max doing this in Edison format. He summons out the Black Rose, like, no effect. Other effect of Black Rose, banish the Dandelion, put your thing in attack mode, drop its point. And then I'm like, oh shit, that is a thing you can do in Edison. Mad. Yeah, lots of fun things you can do with Black Rose. 2, thoughts on Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Dark Rebellion's probably one of my favourite Xyz monsters in the game. When it first got revealed in the anime, it probably had one of the best reveals they've ever done of a monster in the anime. Dark Rebellion was absolutely amazing back in the anime. I think it was probably more broken in the anime as opposed to the TCG, but they work differently, but they each kind of balance out in their own ways. I still remember a fun thing I did with Dark Rebellion back in the day when it first came out. I picked up a copy of Overlay Regen. I threw an Xyz unit into my deck. I basically waited till I had the right cards, made two Force for Dark Rebellion, activated Overlay Regen to attach it to it as an extra material, equipped it with Xyz unit, which has the effect that if an Xyz wants to attach a material or materials to activate its effect, you can send this card to the grave instead. So, as you can guess, guys, I had 3 materials. So, if you guys can figure it out from there, 3 materials on Dark Rebellion and the Xyz unit, which can count as a material. Yeah, I got to drop a monster stats twice, like in the anime in an actual TCG game, which was pretty fun and insane, not gonna lie. That was a fun time. Good times. 3, thoughts on Red Dragon Archfiend. Again, Red Dragon Archfiend, a nice classic from Synchro era. Sorry. I think probably for me the only thing I dislike with Red Dragon Archfiend is its drawback effect in the end phase, that it will kill all of your monsters that haven't declared an attack. Because back in the days when I was using on a Synchro deck, like, if I was in the position that I wanted to do Red Dragon Archfiend for the attack, sometimes I was in the position I didn't necessarily want to attack because I know what my opponent's got, and then I'm just risking all my monsters, which isn't great. But it's got its uses, so it's alright, but probably not one of my favourites of the Signer Dragons. 4, thoughts on Black Skull Dragon. Oh, I absolutely love Black Skull Dragon. When it first got dropped in the anime as a fusion between Yugi and Joey, that was absolutely insane. Easily became one of my favourite old school fusion monsters. It's also one of my favourite fusion monsters that I own that was gifted to me by my best friend at the time when I got it. And still own it. It's absolutely just one of my favourite, most sentimental cards that I own. And so yeah, I really like that card. 5, thoughts on Red Nova Dragon. Red Nova, yep, really cool, very strong, good effects. Back in the day wasn't necessarily very easy, practical to summon, but naturally there's easier ways that you can do it. Not necessarily within the Red Dragon Archfiend archetype at the time, but if you combine it with things from other archetypes, then it was pretty easy to do. Simply put, you can just go Red Dragon Archfiend, normal junk synchron, activate its effect to bring back a level 1 tuner, boom, you got your Red Nova Dragon. Why not? Why not? 6, thoughts on Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Yes, the Red Dragon Archfiend retrained from the Arc 5 era. Very much like Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. I've had some very good fun with him in the days. Interesting fact with Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, since he's one of the cards that came out back when Ghosts and Ultis were still in main set, Scarlet is actually one of the only cards I own in every copy from its original set. So I've got the original Secret, I have the Ulti, and I have the Ghost from Dimension of Chaos. And so yeah, quite pleased that this is one of the few cards I own in every one of its original rarities, which I'm really happy with. I was kind of upset though that after Dimension of Chaos they got rid of Ghosts and Ultis from main sets though, which was kind of upsetting. But I suppose the payoff that they made for it was better. Somewhat. It's debatable. But yeah, still, Scarlight, absolutely love it. It's been very useful to me back in the day. I think probably one of my favourite things I've done with Scarlight is just completely abusing its nuking special summon monsters effect. I remember a game I was in during a tournament. I don't remember completely what the deck was. I think it was kind of just like a normal stall deck, because back then there was a fusion monster release called First of the Dragons, which requires 2 normal monsters to be fusion summoned, and it can't be destroyed in battle except with an effect monster, and it can't be destroyed by the effects of effect monsters. So basically my opponent just summoned that in defense. I was on Pendulum at the time with primarily very heavily effect monsters, no normal monsters in my deck. I had literally no way to get over it. So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to defeat my opponent like this if I can't kill their monster? Check through my extra deck, I'm like, Scarlight. Yep, I'm fine. So I'm just like, cool. Synchro to Scarlight. Pendulum, a bunch of effect pendulums. Effect of Scarlight. Nuke my pendulums, burn you for 2. Special 4 pendulum. Effect of Scarlight. Nuke my 4 pendulums, burn you for 2k. Just did that. Constantly, every turn. It was the only option I had of getting around that board. And sometimes that's just the option of what people had to do. Summoning Scarlight, nuke your own effect monsters just to get the damage off so you can win the game. Yeah, lots. But yeah, everyone's had some good times with Scarlight, I'm sure, back in the day. 7. Thoughts on Borrelode Dragon? Yeah, Borrelode, very good. He was probably one of the best link monsters in the game at the time of his release. Just because he had that targeting immunity from monster effects, which made him really good. And then also his attack dropping effect that your opponent can't respond to was pretty good back then. And the fact that you could just rob your opponent's monsters if it was bothering you. Yeah, he was really good back in the day. I suppose he's still technically good now as just a way to rob an opponent's monster, and then they just don't easily get it back, because it's just you just take it and then it stays yours until the end of the next turn, then it goes to the grave. So they're not getting it back either way. Still really good, I suppose. I suppose it kind of just depends on what people want to use for situational stuff now. 8. Thoughts on Boral Sword Dragon? There's probably not a person in the game who has not had an OTK done through Boral Sword. That's pretty much the main thing it was used for, and probably still the main thing. It is still useful for those too broke to afford an access code talker, which is understandable. It's probably the best substitute to access code talker. It's still a very good monster, just a little, and for essentially what it used to summon it, since it requires 3+ effect monsters as opposed to the 2+ effect monsters of access code talker, since typically for access code you'd be summoning a Link 3, typically Selene, which brings back a material that you're easily looking for. Essentially now it's just basically get a Link. Basically now you're just going to have a Link 2 and then 2 other monsters, and there's your Boral Sword. And then essentially you just probably would like to have one of your own monsters as well in attack, so you can get the multi-attacking effect without losing too much advantage off of it. But still, overall, yeah, definitely, probably Boral Sword is probably one of the top Link monsters that they've ever released. 9. Thoughts on Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon? Nice classic card from the Zexal era. It's had some very nice retrains as well. Prime Photon is probably one of my favourite number cards, and I really like its artwork. And overall, its effect was pretty good for dealing with annoying XZ monsters at the time. Now we're just kind of at the point that there's better options, but still it was a pretty easy monster to use back then, even if you wanted to just tech it as a monster in a deck. So overall, Photon Dragon pretty good. And with the Photon deck as well, naturally there's lots of cards that still actually state Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon in its text for something, so still somewhat necessary for the deck. And question 10, thoughts on Rainbow Dragon? Rainbow Dragon's nice, kind of difficult to go into with its requirements of needing 7 different crystal wastes. I mean, I get with the newest support it's a lot easier to do now because you could just use the trap, which lets you sack off them. Oh no, wait, I think the trap banishes them for the fusion monster as opposed to sending them. Would need to double check on that. But yeah, so I think essentially now Rainbow Dragon with the new support probably a lot better, but frankly it's probably just been power crept by its new fusion variant from the structure deck, so probably isn't seeing too much play now anymore, but still overall a very good generic card from back in the day. And naturally I still respect that you're playing yours in your Rainbow Neos. And on that note, guys, that's all the questions I have today, so thank you very much, Darkpatrician84, for your questions. Very amusing as always, and if anyone else has any questions for me, I do these Q&As every Wednesday afternoon or morning UK time, depending on my schedule. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.